Friday the 27th of November. This is a breakfast show on BBC Somerset. Jack Murley in for Emma Britton with a summary of the main headlines. Kelly Withers.
A Somerset man has won a share of almost $200,000 at an American competition for inventors for designing a device which allows people to steer a wheelchair using their eyes. Patrick Joyce from Wells came up with the idea 2 years ago when motor neurone disease caused him to start losing control of his hands. Speaking using a computer, Patrick told us he was diagnosed with MND 8 years ago.
I can still breathe, luckily, but pretty much everything else is gone. 2 years ago, when my hands started to go, I realised I would soon be doomed to a life sat in one place, relying on carers to move me. That thought horrified me, and I decided that I'd better do something about it.
Patrick says the money will go towards buying his family a new house.
We've got 3 kids in a small house, with no room for my carers. MND kills most people within 4 years from diagnosis, but I've not stuck to the schedule. I've had it for 8 years already. My oldest son is now 13 years old and 6 foot tall. I should have died 4 years ago, and he was to have had my bedroom.
Patrick won the grand prize in the Hackaday Awards for his Eyedrivomatic device, which allows people to steer an electric wheelchair using their eyes.
Now, whatever you do, I know mornings are busy. I know that you're always up, down, getting the kids or the grandkids ready for school. You're popping out to go to work. But please, please, please stay with us after 8:30 because we have a truly extraordinary story. A man from Wales with motor neurone disease who's created something incredible.
It's horrible. It takes away your ability to walk, talk, eat and breathe, and eventually it kills you. Most inconvenient.
That is Patrick Joyce. He was diagnosed with the condition some years ago. He decided he wanted to do something when he got the diagnosis. He created a wheelchair that you can drive with your eyes. It's called the Eyedrivomatic. Not only did he create it, and I should say he has no inventing background whatsoever, sheer perseverance has got him to do it. He's won an international inventing prize and $200,000, nearly that amount for doing so. You can see a picture of him on Facebook. Elaine says fantastic, and Mark Hemming says what a fantastic chap. Andy, we're all going to be sweetness and light in a moment doing stop press, but let's just take a moment to reflect on Patrick and what he has done there. Absolutely extraordinary. I mean, he is a man who has a condition that is degenerative. He knows he's not going to get better, and yet he has the most wry sense of humour you could ever wish for.
It is a show of courage, isn't it? And such a nice... It's really worth listening to, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm glad that people are getting behind Patrick on Facebook. Patrick Joyce from Wells. Well done to him. We'll also hear from his wife, Kathy, as well. Just stay with us after 8:30. If you do nothing else, make an appointment with us for that, please.
Yeah.
Jack Murley.
BBC Somerset.
8:34 is the time. Good morning. This is The Breakfast Show on BBC Somerset. When Patrick Joyce from Wells was diagnosed with motor neurone disease, he decided he was going to do something about it. He knew the condition was incurable, so he decided to come up with an invention to make the lives of people like him easier. He's devised a device that allows him to steer his wheelchair using just his eyes, and it's fair to say it's been a success. In fact, Patrick's Eyedrivomatic has picked up a prestigious invention award in the United States and won him almost $200,000. Patrick finds it difficult to speak. He uses a computer to voice his words and told us how the Eyedrivomatic works.
From the start, safety has been my first consideration. Eyedrivomatic has numerous safety features. To go forward, for instance, you would use your eyes to press the forwards button on your screen. The chair then moves forward for a few seconds before stopping. If you want to continue onwards, you have to push the continue button. The chair then moves forward again for a few seconds. Then you push forwards, then continue, then forwards, and so on. If you're in a tight spot, you'd use a short duration. If you're in a wide open space, use a long one. If you ever look away or the eye gaze stops working for some reason, then the chair just stops on its own. Safe as houses.
That's Patrick. Well, Patrick's wife, Kathy, has also been talking to me about him and his award-winning invention and what he's like to live with.
He is a bit of an oddball, really. He's also very funny and kind and giving, but mainly it's his eccentricity that shines through, I think. And if he gets a bit between his teeth, there's very little anyone can do to distract him from that, I think. So
you have to be driven to come up with an award-winning invention. And my understanding is that, at first at least, you didn't really know what he was up to.
No, that's right. He didn't mention it. I just was aware that he was spending a lot of time doing something, but wasn't really sure what. And the 3D printer was going all day long. So I knew that there was lots of things being made, components and what have you, but didn't really know what was going on, no.
You mentioned that drive, and I understand from chatting with you that almost from the moment that Paddy was diagnosed, there was this decision to try and do something about it as much as you can with a disease like MND, to try and make his life better. And I suppose that's where that drive shows itself, doesn't it?
Yes, he absolutely needed to be proactive. That was his coping mechanism for, what is such a devastating diagnosis. I mean, as a family, all of us, but him in particular, felt absolutely sideswiped by it. And, he has initially the prognosis was very short, but as it turns out, the diseases that Patrick has is, he has a slow progression. So he's still with us. But at the time, I think you sort of live in limbo, waiting for the day you're going to die. And, so he needed to be very proactive. And I think at one point he decided he was going to become a neuro specialist and find a cure, but I think we're a long way off from finding that cure, and I think he realised that. So then at that point he set about making life better for himself and others in the process.
Talk to me about the awards, because I understand that San Francisco is a long way away and communications are great these days, but when they're having an award ceremony there, us in the UK, we have to stay up fairly late to see whether or not we're winners. Tell me about watching the award ceremony online.
Well, I was actually with a fair number of girlfriends. We were having a birthday party for one of us, and a couple of them were very kind and stayed up with me. And we were trying to watch the live stream on YouTube, but there were issues with that, technical problems, and we couldn't see it. So I had one friend tweeting to try and find out, another friend on Facebook, and we just kept refreshing. And I think it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock when I saw it, and yes, we were probably a bit noisy at that point.
I think if at any point you're allowed to be noisy, it's when you pick up almost $200,000 and this prestigious prize. I know the money isn't why this was done, but it's going to make life easier. It'll have to, won't it?
It absolutely is, yes. I mean, Patrick is sharing the prize with the two people that helped him to win, so that 200 isn't all ours to scoop. But yes, it's going to help us find a bigger house. We need a house where the carer can have their space, and we've got two boys sharing a bedroom at the moment. They're 13 and 8, and they most definitely are ready for their own bedrooms. So I'm hoping it's going to make life a lot more pleasant for us.
Let me ask you this question finally, because your husband has a very dry sense of humour and it comes across when we hear from him.
He does indeed.
Do you have to struggle to keep him grounded?
When I think about what he's achieved, in the face of adversity, I am in awe of him. It is amazing what he's done, but I am also his wife, and I don't think I've ever let him. I don't think I've ever been big on the sympathy front. Before MND, it was, if he tried to have man flu, I was having none of it.
That's Kathy Joyce, the wife of Patrick Joyce from Wells. Patrick inventing that award-winning device people with motor neurone disease can use to drive a wheelchair with their eyes. He won almost $200,000 as well. If you want to find out more, just pop Eyedrivomatic into a search engine or onto Facebook, and please visit our Facebook page. You can see Patrick. Lots of people liking Patrick this morning. Well worth doing. All right, it's just gone 20 to 9 here on The Breakfast Show. Ed Hadwin has a sport. What do you have for us, Ed?
I'm going to start with a bit of football as new Yeovil Town loan signing Chris McGowan.